I'm very happy to invite my next guest. She is a violinist from Malaysia. Her name is Khai Ern.
So yeah, we're in Sweden, and as you know, we don't really have much of a lockdown here. So the restrictions aren't as strict as other countries. So most of the orchestras in Sweden have actually still been active. Um, my orchestra, as well as the Stockholm orchestras, as well as Gothenburg Symphony and others in Sweden, have continued to play concerts, but just without an audience, and smaller size. So here we have a restriction of 50 people for public gatherings. So chamber orchestra size. And obviously, because of travel restrictions, it's harder to get conductors. Most orchestras, we have conductors from all over the world come to guest conduct. But so now this is a little bit difficult. So either some concerts are without conductor or with more local conductors. So in my orchestra, they have sort of converted the lunch concerts, the chamber music lunch concerts, into live streaming concerts. And we've made several smaller scale concerts for live streaming. And I was very, very privileged to have the opportunity to play last week with Alan Gilbert, a concert of Barber's music, which was really, really beautiful. You asked also about me personally. So yeah, because all these concerts are much smaller scale.
Yeah.
Normally we play. My job is actually at the opera house in Stockholm, and obviously operas take a lot of personnel, not just a big orchestra, but also singers and a production team and all sorts of things. So definitely we will be more than 50 at any production. So of course all of those performances have been cancelled, and because the things that have been going on are smaller scale, so I haven't been involved so much. So which was why it was very nice to be able to play last week. But generally, I've been trying to keep up with the practicing. In fact, instead of keeping up, actually, I would say that I've been doing more than what I normally do individually. But generally, I'm just focusing on technique, on basics, on trying to play in tune, really. It's, yeah, scales and studies, trying to get back in shape. So yeah, I grew up in Malaysia. Both my parents still live there. My mom actually was the one who sent me for violin lessons as a kid. And at that time, I have a sister as well. She's 4 years older than me, and both of us took both violin and piano lessons as kids. And so we grew up having that, like that was part of our childhood, really. My dad is there's actually there are no professional musicians in my whole family and extended family, but my dad loves singing. Actually, from a young, since I was little, I always hear my dad playing opera in the car on the cassette tapes and things like that. So I heard that growing up. My dad loves to sing, and he would be just belting out to different opera arias. Yeah, and my mom also, she played she played piano, and I think as a teenager, she also even taught some people. So there is that background. These were all orchestra, actually. So when I was after after I studied in the UK and in the US, and when I was in the US for university, I took all these auditions for festivals and academies and festivals, and I was very privileged to get to join orchestras in summer festivals here and there. Carnegie Hall was when I played with the New York String Orchestra Seminar under Jamie Laredo.
Right.
That was, I think I was barely 21. I was probably maybe 20 years old. And that was just a big eye opener. It was a fantastic experience. The New York String Orchestra Seminar has been going on for decades, a very long time, and the alumni of that orchestra includes all the big name, all the big name string players, like Yo-Yo Ma, I think played in that orchestra, Jennifer Ko, Bella Hiristova, lots of, I'm not sure if like people like Midori even played there, but so it's got this tradition, and in that seminar, I remember a big portion of that seminar was chamber music as well. So we played string quartets, and our coaches were from the Guarneri Quartet, from the Orion String Quartet, and I remember having coachings from Michael Tree, the violist of Guarneri Quartet. He passed away, I think, a few months ago, and just so much. It was very inspiring to do that. And the Royal Albert Hall was actually a very interesting story as well. This was 2012. This was at the summer of the London Olympics, the London Summer Olympics, and I joined this orchestra called Aldborough World Orchestra, and the whole idea about this was to get together as many people from as many countries as possible. So I was the only representative from Malaysia, but there were musicians from Egypt, from Syria, from I think Ethiopia, from lots from South Africa, from all over the world. There were people from Israel and Palestine playing together in this orchestra, and it was just fantastic. Of course, the whole idea of this was that it was Aldborough World Orchestra during the time of the Olympics. And so we played at one proms concert, a BBC proms concert at the Royal Albert Hall, and that was really a cool experience, I would say. have to say, I've been so privileged.
Mm.
So growing up, when I was in Malaysia, I would say that I didn't really have any idea about what being a musician was about. There was no concept that I needed to practice, or that being a musician is actually requires a lot of discipline. And I didn't really take it seriously until I was maybe 14, 13 or 14, when I actually started having an idea that maybe practicing is important. um, so at 15, I moved to the UK, and I was in the school. It's a music specialist music school in Wells, England. The school is called Wells Cathedral School, and I had this teacher, Catherine Lord, and it was drill after drill. She herself studied with Ivan Galamian, who is a very important teacher, violin teacher. And Miss Lord, I used to call her Miss Lord, and she still is Miss Lord Sweet. She made me memorize everything. Everything at every lesson had to be memorized, and every, of course, skills and studies. I went through so many studies. Not actually, sorry, that was a lie. I did not go through that many studies. It was because she was so detailed, and everything had to be memorized, and everything had to be good. So but it was like boot camp for years, and that really made me very disciplined, or at that time. And then I lost that discipline when I left high school, and I enrolled in university in the US, in Indiana University, and there was so much orchestra requirements, and there was so much requirements for academics, like history and theory, that I kind of got distracted. But I still had wonderful teachers, really, really fantastic teachers that I had in university. I studied with Federico Agostini, who was this Italian. He was the leader of I Musici, this Italian ensemble. I also studied with Mark Kaplan, and both of them fantastic artists, real artists in violin, and just musicians, all well-rounded musicians. And but not just that, I also studied with really good coaches. I studied with Attar Arad, chamber music and string quartets, and he was in the Cleveland Quartet for many years, and this I just learned so much about how all music is about listening and not just playing, and about interacting with other musicians, about reacting when you're playing in a group. So, and that's so important, it's not just, of course, so much is woodshedding, is technical, like being able to play in tune, and knowing how to put your fingers where, and how to bow in a certain way. But so much of it is also communicating with one another. So I've been here in Sweden for 3.5 years, and before that, I was living in Malaysia freelancing, and most of my work was with the Malaysian Philharmonic Orchestra. But I also did some. I was also involved locally, and I was teaching in this university called UCSI, and a few friends asked me if I would be interested to play some chamber music together, and that became Ensemble Virama. And we were very ambitious. We did things like Prokofiev Quintet. We did things like the Schoenberg arrangement of Mahler's Songs of a Wayfarer. We did the piano trio version of Schoenberg's Verkletternacht. Just very, very difficult things. But not just that, we also did all these things in the community. So we presented workshops at schools in my old primary school. We also went to we did a workshop with this brass band. All right, so if it's solo for violin, without a doubt, it's Bach. You know, Bach for violinists is the foundation, it's the rock. You can't go far without Bach.
Right.
And yeah, if it's with orchestra, that's harder, because there's just so much amazing. Well, there's so much amazing music for violin too, but I just feel like, you know, Bach is like the father. When it comes to orchestra, and I play opera, so in the opera house we play lots of Mozart, Puccini, Verdi, Wagner. It's always fun to play Mozart. But in a symphony orchestra, maybe I would have to say Brahms. His Brahms symphonies are just so beautiful and so powerful. And you can dig into these amazing melodies, these G string passionate melodies. But also there's so much intimacy. All these just delicate solos for clarinet, for oboe, and I often sit in the second violin section, and I feel that's the best place to sit. You really hear the whole orchestra around you, and to hear this like solo oboe like pretty much right behind you, it's just like the most goosebump kind of thing. And another composer, of course, that has to be mentioned is Mahler. Just this power of being on stage with like 100 musicians or more, 120 maybe. That vibrations is really, you can't get that elsewhere. I feel you have this gigantic brass section. You have an army of horn players. And sometimes you also have this huge choir behind you, and that sound and that energy. I've played all of them except for number 8. And number 8 is like the huge choir one. So hopefully one day I'll get to. And the thing is, Mahler has this crazy instrumentations. He loves mandolin. He loves like, and in Mahler 7 you have mandolin and guitar, and in 6 and 7 you have all these cowbells, and he uses cowbells in like the climax. I don't know of any other composer who loves to use cowbells at the climax. So yeah, and his music is like so weird sometimes. It's like bipolar and sarcastic and klezmer, and so yeah, very cool. You know, okay, I have to say, I work here at the Stockholm Royal Opera House, and I would say that by far the most intense orchestra experience that I had was playing the Ring Cycle, Wagner's Ring Cycle. So if you don't know, if you don't know what Wagner's Ring Cycle is, it's a cycle of 4 operas, and generally maybe it's performed over a week, or sometimes you just an orchestra might just, or an opera house might just do one of the operas in a year, and then the next opera the next year. But when I was on trial here at the Royal Swedish Orchestra, I had to play the entire ring cycle, and it was, I remember, I think we had 1 month of rehearsals, and then we did 2 cycles, so two performances each of the operas. And the first opera is like 2.5 hours long without a break, no intermission. Rheingold. The second and third operas, I believe, is around 4.5 to 5 hours, maybe.
Yeah,
and then, yeah, it really is also a psychological thing, you know, like of being able to get through this giant marathon. So, but I was in this terrible tunnel, really, until it was the general rehearsal of the last opera of Götterdämmerung. And so we have these general rehearsals, meaning that it's the last run through before the performances. And for the ring cycle here, they also have tickets for the general rehearsal, because it's so popular that the tickets sell out within 15 minutes. And the general rehearsals were my first time playing through the opera without stopping. And it was at the end of the general rehearsal of Götterdämmerung that I was like, I can do this. And I just remember like going out of the Royal Opera House with a colleague, and we were walking home, and I was so energized. We had just played a 6.5 hour long opera, and I was like, let's do that again. and it was then that I felt like that I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. So, yeah. Sure, yeah. So I've played with lots of conductors and lots of amazing musicians. The best conductors are the best musicians, I would say. I can share some quotes from some of them. So I've had the privilege of playing a little bit with Alan Gilbert. Actually, I'll just tell you about something that he said last week. You know, we were doing this live streaming concert, and of course for all of us, it's really special that we get to even come together and play music together at this time when a lot of people are not able to. And he said this, he was like, you know, this crisis, this coronavirus crisis, it really is a time for us to reprioritize, to remember why we play music, to it's a time to refocus on what's important. And you know, we don't know how it's going to be. We don't know when things are going to be back to normal, or if normal will ever come back, or what we think of as normal. And what's important is to be grateful for what we have and the opportunity that we have to play music and to share. So I'll tell a few other quotes. I wrote some quotes down. I like to do that because some
do that.
Are really funny.
Yeah.
Ashkenazy, Vladimir Ashkenazy, he was conducting Shostakovich's 8th Symphony, and he's asking for the bass clarinet to play an articulation that's not really in the part. So he says, "I know it's not in the part, but Shostakovich would like it. I'll call him." I met him once. He was really nice. And throughout the rehearsal, he was like talking about how he has met Shostakovich. He played for him his piano quintet, I think, and then Shostakovich was so nice. And yeah,
That's funny.
Another quote from Fabio Luisi.
Mm-hmm.
I remember this. I think we were playing Mahler 7 at this time, and he said, "I like to say I am like the red light in Naples. It's just a suggestion." That what he's doing is just it's a suggestion. It's not a command. And then yeah, so Laurent Mazel, I played with him a few times in his festival in Castleton in Virginia. He has these farmlands, amazing rolling farmlands in Virginia. And he and his wife started a festival for young musicians, and I was very, very blessed to be able to do it for two summers. But Laurent Mazel has this reputation of being a jerk, a huge jerk, and yeah, some of the times he was just in a bad mood, and I think he was doing Puccini. I think it was either Bohème or Trittico or something, and he it was in a rehearsal, and he just throws his baton down, and he's like, "Even God could not give a better downbeat." And well done to you. I wish you all a very successful career in Starbucks. Yeah, well. But he also had some really nice moments. He was also very, very very generous in his praise when he was in a good mood.
That was lucky to her.